I'm gonna make a deadeye, so I figured I'd record the entire process start to finish. So we're starting with just a simple length of 4 feet of dyneema, and we're gonna make a deadeye. First step is to find your mark. So you wanna go, hold it at the top, come all the way to the end, and get both tails even. And then you're gonna cross it over, and you want to have both tails be even with the bottom. If they're not, you adjust it a bit. So you get it so that you pretty much have 4 passes of the line. Now where they cross, that's going to be your first point. So you just open the weave, and then pass a fid through. Ideally have the line come out with the fid, but you can't always have everything. Okay, so you have one little pass which does not much. It's just the beginning. So now you just want to get the points even. So to do that, you just want to make sure that the tails pretty much come to an even point here. So you have them, and it's nice and tight, and you have a little X in the middle. So a regular Möbius is where you then cross again, and then you create a lock. We're going to do that by going back. So this is our point where everything's even. So we're just going to put a pin right through it, and that just keeps it together so that it doesn't move while we're working. And then you want to unbraid this one, that way it can pass around it and then be rebraided. So off comes the tape, and we're just going to unbraid the entire thing. So you just start pulling the strands. There's 12 in total. And you just want to pull them all out. One at a time. If you start pulling a whole bunch, it binds up on itself and it won't go. So it just takes a little bit of patience, but you'll get there. Okay. So right now we have one line and one spider web. So it's 12 strands. We're going to break it down into 4 groups of 3. Before that, we're going to find the midpoint, or the middle, and we'll split it into 2 groups of 6. So we have 3 and 3, which would make this side also have 3 and 3. So we'll take the uppers and the lowers, and those will be the lowers and these will be the uppers. So now we have our 4. So we pretty much make an X with 3 going each direction. Now we're going to take these and we'll braid them. So it's just a simple weave. You'll get pretty quick at it and pretty used to it soon. So to see what I'm doing exactly, like get a little closer here. It's just an over-under, over-under. And you have to clear it out every so few. So you want to start off pretty tight, and then you'll work your way to much looser. That way it'll taper better later, which we'll get to that when we start burying these tails. Okay, so that's one. And then we pull it out. And now we have to do the other one. So we have 3. And it's the same. You just go over, over, like that. At the beginning you want to pull it nice and tight. And then later on you just want to ease up on it. So we go over and over. Now that we're a little further from the beginning, we'll start to loosen up how tightly we're holding them all together. So you can see it goes from a really tight, compact braid to much looser. Okay, 2 done. Time for the other 2. So, same as before, nice and tight, then we work ourselves a lot looser. So as you can see, I go weaving, and I also go releasing at the same time. So the weight of the deadeye hanging keeps enough tension on the line to help everything proceed smoothly. Meanwhile, the tails just kind of flitter around as I braid them. Okay. 3. On to the last one. So nice and tight, and then we go looser. It's kind of tedious work, but it's a lot easier than trying to rebraid 12 strands all together. Alright, pull them all nice and tight, and now we have 4 3-braid pieces. Still forming the X, and each one going off in its own direction. Now, this is the important part. To form the lock, this needs to pass onto the other side. The idea is, with these braided on this side, the line simply can't come apart, because in order for it to slide through this whole section would have to come unbraided. But it can't because it's trapped inside the Chinese finger trap that is 12-strand dyneema. The same with this side over here. It's just not going to come apart when you pull this way, because in order for it to slip, this whole thing has to come unbraided, which is really hard. You saw I had to do it one by one. There's no way you're possibly going to do all 12 while it's being crushed inside the other side's Chinese finger trap as well. So, this is important. You want to take the 4 and you pass 2 on each side. And we're going to braid them on that side. So I actually do the braiding opposite sided. So you're going to roll it over. So now what was inside is outside, and what was outside is now inside. So it now lays onto the other side. All I did was roll it. It's nothing fancy. So we have all 4 strands, 2 on each side, crossing over, and the other side coming on the outside. So at the end we'll have the untouched piece on one side and then the rebraided piece on the other, and we'll create a Möbius locking splice. So you have 2 on each side. You simply cross the first 2, and now you have this one being under, over, and now it's under. And now this one is standing here, and you want to cross it the other way. So it'd be under, and then over, and then under. And that's it. So you simply pass them along. So this one's above, this one's below. This one's above, this one's below. So that since this one's below, you pass it under it to make it above, like that. And you just keep braiding them along. It's probably the most labor-intensive splice you'll ever make, but it's also a really strong splice, so it's worth it. So you'll see I always have 3 on one side and 1 on the other. And when this one makes all its way over and I have 2 and 2, I pass it back to being 3 and 1. That's pretty much it. So now we'll have the line rebraided on the other side. And it's rebraided as 3 strands into each braid, and then each braid into a 4-strand rebraid. So that's how you get your 12 back together. So now you have this guy, which starts off really tight and ends up a bit looser over here, but it looks more like a ribbon. So you need to work it. So you pull on it, and you stretch at it, and kind of roll it around. You just got to make it round again. And don't worry about the end fraying. It's going to get all trimmed down a bit, so it's not a big deal. So now it's gone from a flat ribbon to more of an ovoid shape, which works for us in this case. So there you have it. You now have a locking Möbius splice. So this part, this tail here, gets buried into this, and this tail here gets buried into this. So let's get on to that fun part. So I'm just going to wrap the end of this one nice and tight, that way it slides through with the fid very easily. You don't have to worry about the tails being kind of frayed. They're all going to get wrapped up in the tape right now, and then they're going to get cut away later. So it really doesn't matter. Okay, that one's taped up, and the other side is fine. It had the electrical tape from when I bought it. Alright, on to the fun stuff. So, this is locked. We don't need the pin anymore because it's not going anywhere. So our next step is going to be to bury the things. Now when you bury them and you open the weave, the length of the line will distort, so it'll become shorter. So it's really important to mark your midline right now before you do any opening of the weave. So I mark it again with a pin, and I just go straight through. Alright. Just rolling it over because it's easier to work on the outside. And you'll just push to open the weave, and then slip the fit in between the weave. And then you're just gonna go pushing along. And you'll open the weave a bit and then push it through. Now I am using a fid that's considered too large for this size of line, but it makes life a lot easier. So you reach the midpoint where the pin is, and then you're going to poke out the bottom. And you're probably wondering, once you taper everything down, it's then going to be shorter, and then it's not going to have enough tail buried, and it's going to come apart. Don't worry, this is just for right now. After we get everything through on both sides, then we're going to pass it another halfway along the sides of the splice. So, the fit is through. We'll just pull that. So you can see, this very short piece and this very long piece are actually the same length. It's just that this one has been opened to bury the tail, and this one hasn't. So that's why you need to mark your midpoint first, otherwise you'll never find where the midpoint was. So, let's bury the other side. So the same thing, you just roll it over, and then you push to open, and then you just slip it in between the weave, and you're just going to run to the midpoint. Now the reason you can't just go past the midpoint on your first go is fids are straight and circles are curved, so you're not going to make it around the bend. Now, I personally like to come out in the same hole, because then I know for sure that they are both popping out in the same area. If they're off by one strand, I always wonder, is it plus or minus a strand? Those are just little nuances that make me special, but you don't really need to fret that hard about it. But it's poking out the same hole, and then the same thing, we're just going to insert the other end into the fid, and then we'll cram our pusher into the end of the fid as well, and just push. And hopefully get the tail out as well. Okay, so now you have this weird, ugly looking thing, which, as my wife has pointed out, looks like a heart with its heartstrings. So if you can make this, you're at the right point. If you can't make this, you might want to go back and do it again because something's not right. So you have that. Each one comes along and pops out at the midpoint. Now we're going to bury them further. So this one's going to pop out about here, and this one pops out around here. So this is another trick. I can't get the 1/2" fid to pass through, but I can get the 7/16 fid to go through. So I'll put the 7/16 fid, or a smaller fid, and then you'll simply put the point into the end of the fid and push. With a bit of force, Now you have the bigger fid through, which has a bigger hole and can stuff the whole line in there a bit better. This is a bad habit, but I use my stomach as a third hand. So I'm holding here, I'm working the fid here, and I just push into my stomach. Tense your stomach up and it forms like a little wall. It works. Just don't do that with the pointy end of the fid. That would be really dumb. So, it's really tight, really stiff. You just gotta work it. Very close. Let's see where we are. So, we didn't quite make it to the end, so I'm just gonna open the weave and pull it out where it stands. So we were close, I just missed it by a few strands. Okay. Now I really want it to go that far, therefore I'm just gonna force it through a bit further. Okay, so that one's through. It's time for the other one. So I'm just gonna open the loop up, that way everything's a little softer. Okay. So, now you have something that should look like a little donut with arms. It's going like, wee! That's what you want to see. So really thick at the top, and then a little bit thinner, but still pretty thick on the side with the splice. So your splice is here, and this guy runs all the way across. And this one here goes all the way across. So both of them are crossing 3/4 of the circle. Now, the last step to do is to do the taper. So, I'm going to open it up and see where exactly your tails end up. And then you know you have to cut it at least there and then taper the rest back from there. So you just got to work the fibers to get everything to go back to where it needs to be. Okay. So, now we figured out where the ends are. Like, for example, this guy was almost buried. This one had about a thumb's length sticking out. Simply cut off the excess, and then we'll taper from there. If you don't cut it off, you could run into a situation where at the very end, you have a little tiny fiber sticking out the side. It's not the end of the world, it just doesn't look very clean. So, trim it off now, that way you don't have to deal with it later. Alright. Off comes this tape. And we begin unraveling. Okay. So, you have a very short distance and you need to cut off 11 strands because you have 12. So one of them will make the whole way. One of them will run an 11th of the way, a 10th, a 9th, 8th, and so on down to the bottom. So, I like to start down at the bottom, and I'll just grab one, and pull it out, and I'm going to cut it off. Now, the easiest way to cut dyneema that I've found is use a very, very sharp knife. You don't have to use a ceramic blade or all those fancy things I see advertised. This is just a regular kitchen knife by Faberware. The trick is, you take the dyneema, you lay the blade on it, and you create an incredibly tight radius turn, like that. And it just slices right through. But in all honesty, it's more that the fibers are breaking over the blade because it's too tight of a radius turn. That is why it's so important that you use thimbles or other objects that'll create a proper radius bend, because if you just like kink it like that and load it under a lot of load, it'll just break just like it did over the knife. Alright, so that was one. So then we just go up a bit and grab one, and that one will be two. So, we have one, now just a wee bit higher up, we have two, and then a little bit more up, this will be three, and then four, this guy here is going to be five, so we're doing 6, so we should be close to the halfway point. Remember, it's not 12, it's 11 that get cut. So that was 6. This guy here will be 7. This guy will be 8. This one will go all the way. So we'll make this guy 9. 8.5. Let's make it 9. Okay. So I'll make this guy here 10. And then for 11, we'll just cut off about 1 centimeter. Okay, so that's it. Now you have a tapered tail. You don't really have to reweave it as much, just kind of twist it. That'll serve just as well. So on to the other side. Now this one is a nice 12 braided piece. It's not the braid that you just made, which, let's face it, is nowhere near as gorgeous as this is. This is uniform and systematic and wonderful. So for this one, what you're going to do is you're going to pull as much as you can out, like we did, and then you're going to count how many braids are from here to here. So we have, and you're going to do it in a column. So if you look, they pretty much run in a line. So you have, we'll start down here. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14. To make math easier, let's go up by 2. So we start here. And in our case, since we have 12 from here to here, we're going to take 1 each level. So this will be 1, the next one can be over here, and it'll be 2, 3, and you're just going to run up very quickly. If you were doing the taper of a tail of a stay, where you have 3 or 4 feet of buried line going inside, then you'd calculate how many strands do you have, divide that number by 12, and then you'd go from there. So a lot of times you'll end up doing like 1, and then you'll go 6 or 7 strands, and then do the next one, and you keep progressing like that. So this is 1, and we'll cut it, and then we'll go to 2, and on our way up. So that's 1 there. So we'll go up over here, pull that one out, cut it off. Oh, and if you are wondering, yes, I do have to sharpen my knife a lot. If I don't, I end up having to saw into the ropes more than I'd like to. Alright, so that's 3. Four. 5. 6. Now it's starting to loosen and kind of come apart. That's normal because you've taken out half of the strands that were present. So this will be 7. 8. Let's see, we only have a few left here. So this one will be 9. This one will be 10. And then the last one will be 11. It's pretty close to my fingers there. Okay, so now you have those. We'll just twist them up again, and you pretty much have a little donut with pigtails off to the sides now. And you're just going to pull them back in and bury them. So as you pull, the line goes getting pulled back in. And you have to pull pretty darn hard. You can pull in the splice and just work your way around the line to the halfway point, then go the other way. And that's it. You now have a deadeye. If you're doing a deadeye for standing rigging, you'll put thimbles in the ends and then a seizing knot in the middle. In our case, I'm going to use this as an attachment to act as a turning block for a main halyard. So it's still going to be under a lot of force, but we don't need thimbles or seizing line. Good luck!
Thanks so much for watching, and we hope that you will like this video and subscribe to our channel for updates on our adventures.
And when you subscribe, make sure you click on the little bell. That way you'll get notifications as soon as the next video is uploaded.
Thank you so much!